Here is another campaign I've been holding off for the longest time. Coldstream was released in beta form all the way back in March of 2011. Over a year later, it was officially released to all available platforms. This map is far from perfect, but it can still be a fun experience. I like the forest setting, the environments look great, and for those who like a challenge, this campaign is one of the hardest in the game. Coldstream has seen a lot of changes over the years. This campaign had a lot of interesting ideas that ended up getting cut from the final release. The end result is a very unique campaign that has a lot of strengths and weaknesses. As mentioned earlier, Coldstream does have its problems, but you can still have a lot of fun, especially in versus mode. As an additional bonus, this campaign also features some custom wall graffiti and interesting set pieces that I will cover as we go through the video. So, without wasting any more time, let's break down the story behind Coldstream. The campaign starts out with the Left 4 Dead 2 survivors stranded in the woods. If you look behind you, you can see that the forest is on fire. Turning back is clearly not an option, so the survivors head deeper into the forest. After a very short walk, the survivors come across a fire watch tower. After climbing the stairs, you can see this written on the back of the tower: Devil's Head Fire Lookout, Alpine Creek National Forest. Because of the isolated setting of this campaign, pinning down an exact location is a little difficult. I punched Alpine Creek into Google Maps, and the closest match was a hiking trail in Idaho and this river in California. However, this is likely a coincidence and not the actual setting for the campaign. We do get more hints on our exact location later on, but for now, let's break down even more wall graffiti. Don't worry, if the zombies are looking for brains, you're safe. Chrissy Curly. All for one and 149.key. This graffiti is a direct reference to the 149 custom campaign. The survivors then cross over a collapsed bridge and head deeper into the forest. You can find a shed and a cabin, and inside we can find even more wall graffiti. The not-so-survivors were here. Cammy rocks. Zombies ate my homework. Later on, the survivors come across their first crescendo event. The survivors find the door to a bunker. You have to open the door and run to the safe room while fighting off the infected hordes. This crescendo event has a lot of problems, and I'll go over a few of them quickly. First of all, this door does not have to be opened all the way. All you have to do is hold the interact button for 1 or 2 seconds and you will have enough space to jump in. So why give the player the option to open the bunker door all the way if it's a massive waste of time? On top of that, the safe room is right down the stairs, so this crescendo event is very short and lacking actual challenge. Also, this is a very minor nitpick, but I have to ask, what exactly summons the horde here? The crescendo events in the official Left 4 Dead campaigns always made sense. The survivors have to complete some kind of task that results in a lot of noise being made, like blowing up gas cans or turning on a generator. This crescendo event has you silently opening the doors to a bunker, and the horde is mysteriously summoned at the exact same time. It's a very odd design choice, but as mentioned earlier, it's a very minor nitpick. Before we finish up at Chapter 1, we have one more piece of graffiti to break down, and it can be found to the left of the safe room door. Chet was here. This is certainly a reference to Chet Falzek, a name that most of you should be familiar with. Now, let's head over to Chapter 2. When you leave the safe room, the survivors find themselves in a tunnel. If you turn around, you can see that the tree line is on fire. At the beginning of Chapter 1, the woods behind the survivors are clearly set ablaze. This is a clear indicator that the fire is not only spreading, it's spreading very fast. This is honestly one of my favorite parts about Coldstream. The forest being set on fire adds a sense of urgency, and environmental hazards like this are pretty rare across the Left 4 Dead campaigns. And yes, I know the fire itself doesn't affect the gameplay in any way, but it's still a very nice detail. The survivors continue forward and eventually find a main road. Just before reaching it, however, your screen will begin to shake. This is a really cool event, and it's probably the best part about the campaign. The boulder flying off the cliff towards you is a very memorable moment, and it will instantly down you if you aren't careful. After you take care of the tank, the survivors continue forward. While walking on the road, you can see a military Humvee and a destroyed helicopter, a clear sign of military activity. When you reach the end of the road, the survivors find even more military vehicles, CETA tents, and a CETA trailer. The survivors need to shoot explosive barrels and then make a run for the safe room. This event is very difficult, especially in versus mode. The zombies will be swarming you from every direction, and you aren't given a lot of space, which makes ambush attacks from the special infected even more dangerous. The stairs are easily the hardest part. One good acid puddle here can destroy your health bar, and as mentioned earlier, you don't have a lot of space, so bring a melee weapon and be as fast as you can. Now with all that out of the way, let's head over to Chapter 3. While walking up the stairs, you can find this piece of wall graffiti. The names listed are perhaps developers or playtesters for the Coldstream campaign, but I can't 100% confirm this. The survivors then climb a ladder and make it to the surface. A nearby bridge is our only path forward, so the survivors climb up and keep moving. Chapter 3 of Coldstream is very similar to the parish, but the bridge is a lot shorter and there are actual guardrails. There are holes in the bridge, so you can still instantly die, but if you're careful, you should be fine. While walking on the bridge, the survivors find a fuel tanker that's on fire. After a few seconds, the fuel tanker explodes and alerts a horde. This is a pretty standard event. A single bile bomb is all you really need, just be cautious when crossing over the girder. The survivors use the nearby scaffolding to climb down from the bridge. During the descent, you can see multiple capsized boats in the water. When the survivors reach the bottom, they walk under the bridge and enter a junkyard. During the walk, however, this will happen.
Shit! They nailed that.
A horde is summoned at the same time, so the survivors need to make a dash for the safe room. This event is fairly easy just because the safe room is right around the corner, so just like the end of Chapter 1, this crescendo event is lacking actual challenge. The survivors push past the junkyard and head over to Chapter 4. Inside the safe room, we have even more wall graffiti to break down. The fields have eyes, the trees have ears, and we have guns. Bella. Here's a fun detail. All the official Left 4 Dead campaigns have a tagline seen at the bottom of the poster. This exact piece of graffiti was used as the tagline for Coldstream back when it was in beta form. Also in the safe room, you can find this, a map displaying various locations like Scarford and West Elizabeth. If you look at the center of the map, you see what looks like a railroad, and the words NJ Transit can be seen next to it. The NJ is possibly referencing New Jersey, which gives us a more exact location. However, this could be a standard asset that I'm overanalyzing again, so take this with a grain of salt. The survivors then leave the safe room and walk into a small building. Inside, they find a radio and contact a helicopter pilot. The survivors have to push through the forest and reach the helicopter waiting on the other side. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, this is one of the hardest finales in the entire game. Gauntlets always pose a significant challenge, and this just might be the hardest in the game. The zombie horde is endless, and there are plenty of blind spots for the special infected to spawn. You also have a guaranteed tank spawn at the halfway point, which makes this finale a complete nightmare on expert difficulty runs. Before we reach the helicopter and conclude the video, we have a few things to point out in this finale. When you reach the halfway point, the survivors drop down this small cliff and a helicopter can be seen flying overhead, which is a nice detail. Also, when you reach the helicopter, you can find a small area full of seated tents and dead bodies, the standard signs of an abandoned evacuation center. If you walk into this garage, you can also find bloody contamination bags. After fighting through the infected hordes, the survivors climb aboard the helicopter and fly away from the forest, and that concludes the story behind Coldstream. Like I said at the top of this video, this campaign has a lot of apparent problems, but Coldstream also does a lot of things very well, and those elements deserve praise. I think the setting is unique and interesting, the campaign has a ton of crescendo events for those who like a challenge, and the tank ambush in Chapter 2 was very, very well done. Despite the campaign's many issues, I still had a lot of fun playing Coldstream. So, if I did miss anything, or if you guys have anything to add, be sure to let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.